江总裁
Mr. Poppe, Mr. Wang, and the distinguished guests, good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of Hong Kong Publishing Federation, I express my sincere thanks for your participation in the International Publishing Forum. And I feel very grateful to invite guests from the 3 different regions and the areas to share with your experience. Book fair is a comparison of the piece and this variety. And the book fair is not only a platform, we must also value the value behind. And we have this time to think, to publish, and reading and relevant topics. And this is a very good opportunity for us to think. In terms of publishing, many people say we are entering winter. In Hong Kong, we don't have official statistics. We fear the winter, but we don't know the exact temperature and the change pace. Based on my statistics, most of them are the selling statistics in bookshops. I like to make some sharing and comparison. In the bookshelves, it includes the total, the books, and all the selling are declining. And every year, we have almost a 4 to 5% decline. It's equal to 200,000 books declining every year. We think this book selling is always declining, and the total sale is about 127 books. In 2016, there's only 1.5% who can sell over 1,000 units. And there's about over 500 categories in those selling calculation. And this is calculated in Chinese. We will see this is showed this triangle shape. If we have this category, very big category, but the selling units is very small. And there are over 500 categories who can sell 1,000 units. And it is account 22% of the total sale. And the above 1,000, it's 100 to 1,000 is over 9,500 categories. And for a publisher, they want to sell more books. They want to perhaps sell 10 million a year. But how to make the sale good? And we will say how to increase this popular category. The publisher, they will have the efforts on only for those 100 to 10,000 units. And nowadays, publishers don't know how to publish books. They don't know what kind of books are popular and how to select the books. And it seems we don't know the market and they are not familiar with the readers. In the past, we considering the standards, but the standards is not suitable nowadays. In 9,500, 35% are new books, 65% are old books. And there are about 2% new books can sell over 1,000. and those who can sell 1,000 or below, the old books accounts over 18%. Perhaps old books are more important than new books. That is a question. In terms of reading, and in the Hong Kong Publishing Federation, we made a survey. Over 30% of Hong Kong people, they don't they don't have the reading habit in the past 3 years. And electronic books is not only the reason. And nowadays, the social media and the social networks replace books. They also occupy readers, the past readers' time. If book cannot be the source of the knowledge, how do traditional publisher exist? And this is not the phenomenon the publisher want to see, because we still believe reading is not only a method, it's also a target. Reading is not only the source of knowledge, it is also the improvement of mind and also the exercise of the mind. The publishing must be exist for reading. And we have to think the publishers need to find new way, whether we need to extend our publishing resources to make more extensions, and those are all questions. And we are not in the winter. Perhaps we are in the ice age, or we are entering the ice age. It means the diversification, or we need to destroy and then create new things. We need to think about those questions. And we need to clarify the good questions. And this sharing is about the questions exploring. We will talk about the publishing and the reading and their relations. Therefore, I like to invite our speakers and also want to have a fruitful sharing in this session. Thank you very much for the organizers and also guests. And you invite me because I'm a layman, and you invite me to share my opinions. I have no relationships with the publishing, but in some terms, in a certain extent, I also have a very close relationship with the publishers and publishing industry, because all your books I will choose to read. And as long as I live, I will be the fan of the book. As a reader, as a collector of the books, maybe this is the only the qualification I have to share with you in this topic. As a layman, to share with some opinions for the publishing industries. In the winter, maybe in this atmosphere, maybe we can feel some warmth, and we can find the hope out of the desperation. That's one of the distinguish between human and animal. And we see publish or perish in the U.S. publishing industry and academia world in the U.S. It is related to research, and teaching is the secondary thing. And so in the U.S. academic world, you can only responsible for publishing, and teaching only the secondary thing. So I want to use this expression in reading. To read or to perish in this information age era. If we don't read books. At first, I'd like to define books. Electronic books is only one version of the books, and the paper version is also another version. And the book is a container of the knowledge. It never changed for the past 2,000 years. But whether it is the only existing form in paper, I don't think we can only have the paper container. And in the age as a business, if we publish as a business, so how can we touch the essence of the business? As a reader, we have to serve the reader. How can we really get closer to them? In January this year, the Lee's Professor Zygmunt Bauman passed away and is 90 years old. And in the past years, when he published the book, I bought the book. And he's a socialist. His theory is very precise, very precise prediction for the past and the future, and what's the difference between the past and the future. So I also suggest if you want to have in-depth perspective of the current age, it's better to read his book. He's from the socialist to a very great philosopher. And in many his books, there's a word liquid. And in Chinese, we translate in flowing. I think in Bauman concept, liquid is a contrast to concrete. And this is also a very important philosophy of him. In the post-information age, we will use this technology and network to promote the development. And what's the difference between the age of the current age and the past? He will use the word liquid. Because in the appearance, there's no shape, there's no form. You cannot. It's very hard to find a form to define it. In the past, in tradition, those things are concrete. So it's also similar in the Buddhism that from the changing. So everything's like a river flowing. He always likes to use the running sands to express the age, the current society. So in the past 20 years, he discussed the uncertainty in the human society. If the essence of the society is liquid, is ever-changing and predictable, then, and in the investment, in any things, and all these things are closely related to publishing. If we know the importance, the essence of the age, we can reflect what kind of change we can make. As an outsider of the publishing industry, I also want to have some opinions because I'm an investor, so I like to use some case studies. Maybe it's more clear to express what I really want to mean. And this is showed in 2015, Bloomsbury for Harry Potter. So this is Harry Potter in the genuine leather is collector level. It's about $3,000 for all the books, and this is in red Morocco leather. It's very hard to buy, and I asked my African U.S. publishers to find those books. Why I mention Harry Potter? I think Harry Potter in publishing history is magic. In 21st July, and this is the 10th anniversary for his last volume. And in 1997, and the first volume was published. And this year, we will also memorize this magic. And this is its 20th anniversary. And it's, among this recent the 3 days. Therefore, as a publisher, why Harry Potter is also in the concept of liquid and the concept of running sand. How the publisher make this publishing magic. In Bloomsbury Publishing published the first volume. It was only 500. And J.K. Rowling was persuaded by the editor. You wrote a book and we can publish it. And we can advance you the publishing fee. It's about £2,215. If you agree, we can publish the first volume, and then we can give you £2,215 for this publishing fee. And as a single mother, J.K. Rowling saw the hope, and she said, of course. So the first volume is only 500, but in 1998, Harry Potter was becoming the bestseller in New York Times. And the first volume stayed on the bestseller on New York's Times for a long time. And before, this is only the nonfiction list, the bestseller list. And so after the bestseller of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, it changed the bestsellers list, and they also created the bestseller list for children. And then we will see the movie. And in 2007, the volume 7, the sale also breaking the record of 8 million units. And the first printing in the U.S. is about 1,200, and it's never happened before in the publishing history. 10 years ago, they also fear the winter. And 10 years ago, the digital technology developed very rapidly. They felt the winter, the coldness, because at that time this is a lot of technology emergent, and many people doubt the development of traditional publishing. But Harry Potter made a magic. And Harry Potter didn't have this paper version before. Only in 2012, J.K. Rowling set an online communication platform with her readers. At that time, they start the digital communication. But before, they stick to the traditional paper publishing. And the 7 volumes reached about 400 million. And this is just in English version. The global sale is 400 million. So it's only noble. And the Bible is also it surpasses publishing volume. And in China, it's because we have a large population, it's over 1.4 billion, and the Cheng-ming Mao's quotations publication is also very popular. So the third best-selling in the world is Harry Potter. Miss Rowling has become the first people to be compared with God in terms of those publishings. And then Bloomsbury, when they showed the statistics, they didn't disclose any official statistics. And 4 years ago, Bloomsbury it's over 400 million, and in U.S. Scholastic, it's about 100 million. So I just want to mention why Harry Potter can create this magic. It's create this a counter tradition magic. I think it's related to their minds and thoughts. From the starting point, you must be different. You must create the value. When I give you a product, when I give you a service, it's very hard to say your service and your products are much value than mine. But what is the absolute value? When I use the product and the service, I will say, wow, it looks like this. And I also had Skolasky, his criticism, and he wrote the history. And whenever I read or I do any other things like the Jenga Fund or a New Oriental Training School, and he said 2 sentences. It covers all sectors and industries. He said, and in old history, the arts will turn the unfamiliar to be the familiar, and then turn the familiar to be unfamiliar. And we can use it in fashion. And what is fashion? They cannot create or invent new materials every day. But if I ask you to wear the garment in the 15 years, people will say, wow, it's a very good style. When people get familiar with those unfamiliars, and they make those unfamiliars become familiar, and this process is very attractive. Because as human, their life is very short. In the long history, if you make this a process, it will become a magic for those people. So I think this is similar in many industries. And after the publishing of Harry Potter, I will illustrate 2 examples. It happened in 2002 and 2003. As one people in the U.S., Harold Bloom, the professor in Yale University, he received a Time magazine's interview. He's he's regarded as a judge of the readers. So many people ask the development, the fate for Harry Potter. I, those books are hopeless and massively cliched. He said, I lose hope. Bad thinking and bad writing. The Rowling describe the people's walking. They stretched their legs. They can only she only describe the walking. So why this kind of book will have hope? And he said they will vanish, just like and all the 120 million copies. They're bound for the rubbish heap in 5-6 years. Then this is a part of its interview. And many people think his prediction will be realized in 2002. But we will see after many years of the prediction. He said it in 2002. And Harry Potter didn't vanish. And has made a very great sale. And half years later, and Joseph Ratzinger is a great scholar. And he wrote the religious history. And so he turns from this scholar to Pope. And he also made some comments. He said also the subtle seductions. He uses subtle, which apt and noticed. And people think they have a very good influence. I think this is it's like a seduction. It's like drug, poisoners. If you allow this kind of books exist, it will make a chaos. So to some extent, he realizes the power of Harry Potter. And these two people, famous people, they have very negative comments on Harry Potter. And they have this, but those predictions proved wrong. So what made Harry Potter succeed? I'm not a fan of Harry Potter because for me, I don't read bestsellers. Last year, I started reading Harry Potter because I think life is short. Why waste a life? If I read bestsellers, my time is limited, and I also have a limited energy. If the bestseller is not best in the future or tomorrow, why I need to waste my time to read those bestsellers? I want to read those books have make a very good fame in the long history. Last year, when I started to read Harry Potter, I think it's interesting. I think J.K. Rowling's writing is excellent, and I also look at her literature education. And also her reading experience. And Rowling's favorite writers. One is Jane Austen, and she can even recite many books of Austen's. So it's hard to imagine Rowling is a fan of Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, very tradition, and this is her favorite. And in 2012, in London Olympic, they invite her to make a reading, and she read Peter Pan. Maybe it's related to Harry Potter. So what she read are all the classics, and based on those classics, she made new classic. Many people have to agree Harry Potter is a modern classic. So what's the reason behind? As an investor, I look into the reason behind. I think it's the magic moment strategy. So what is a magic moment strategy? And from its creation and to the printing and to publishing and to selling in bookshops and other form of an artistic presentation, they have a very intricate planning and confidential protection. They saw it laboratory literacy campaign, and Bloomsbury spent about £10 million in publishing and to protect the copyright. So why call it magic moment? Because the sale, after the sale, behind the sale, they have a deep understanding of the popularity. The reader's mind must be preserved in a state of absolute innocence. It must be spoiler-free. So you cannot disclose the things in advance. You need to keep the secret, because the book describes the secrets and magic things. Before people get the books, they have no idea at all. They will have a strong desire to explore the secret, like the first love, and to read the first word. So how to make it happen? In the volume 7, J.K. Rowling typed the last word. Scholastic VP and General Counsel, Deputy General Counsel, Mark Sandoval, and book flight from Manhattan to Edinburgh to collect Miss Rowling's volume 7 is about 700 pages, and print this manuscript. And then he collected all this paper to the U.S. And the next day, he refused all the suggestions to going out, and he refused all the beverages and just stayed in his room to protect the paper, and then fly to London. He put this 700 paper in a bag and then put those bags on his seat on the flight, and they sit on the plastic bag, and he didn't go to the toilet. And many people saw why the people is so high, and he is just like the bottom line. He protect this paper with his life. He just wanted to guarantee nobody know the first word. And when the editors didn't get the manual scratch, the script, and nobody can read. And when the editor started to editing, they just do like FBI confidential protection scheme. They cannot go home. They cannot disclose a word to his family, his children, etc. It's just the regulations in the army, and the publishing is of high confidential. And many people saying some printers in the UK, they will disclose the doors for those published workers in those during their work. And the newspapers say it's inhumane, and you ask those published workers to do the work in a very dark environment. It's just like the coin maker requirements in the U.S. I visit those U.S. money coin makers. I saw some slogans on the wall on this industry. He said, "Have you ever been so close?" Yes, so far away. It's very philosophical. Yes, you are very close to money, but you cannot touch, and you are actually very far away. So they keep the confidential at the highest level. And it's not for publishing, it's just using their lives to protect the confidentiality. And only after the book finished the publishing process, they only have one delivery company, that is FedEx, and they also have a confidential contract with them. They will use GPS tracking those trucks. They have the barcode. If the box is moving, they will know something happened. I think it's even more confidential than those material information in World War II. And I only have 3 minutes. Yes, I'm almost reached this destination. So when they reach the destination, so how do they keep the magic moment? Harry Potter is always to be sold at midnight, and always sold in the 12 a.m. And then I realized, because The Harry Potter described the imagination and the those imaginative world after people's asleep. So at 12 a.m. is the clear cut before the clear mind and the sleepy mind. So after that, and after 12 a.m., and 1 minute past the 12 a.m., and we start to sell the books, it also represents the magic moment. And in London and Manhattan, and when you hear the bell and they started to sell, and then it made the selling record in history. So they sell at 1 past 12 a.m. It showed the values of reading in the silence and the great interest of reading in the silence. It also showed a philosophy. And for example, the Apple products, you can see it's only the shape and the product. You will see this its function at night. But for Harry Potter, as long as you buy the book, you can know the first word. Therefore, they create, they use all the effort and all the process to create that moment. Because the right magic, magic, and all the process represents magic. And it makes Harry Potter become this magic. Of course, the popularity is also related to fans. Many people nowadays are talking about fans economy, and in even 1960s we had fans fiction. And for example, in China, the Ringed Chamber, we also have a large group of fans. So fans is not only for money. It's not only for money. We want to change some people's life and want to describe people's life in those literature. So it's not like a pirate. They just want to continue the figures in those books, the figures' lives in those books. And fanfiction.net, fanfiction.net, Harry Potter, on this website, there are many preludes about Harry Potter, and all the items is over 80,000 and almost about 100,000. So it's very popular. It also promotes this community with the internal interactivity. So if we cannot know and if we know you don't know the certainty, we can create the community and keep the secrets of the community and enlarge the community to attract other people. The fan fiction, fan novel. There are many books, and many books are written by fans. And another one is 50 Shades of Grey. It's also very popular. And this is also fan fiction, and it's from Twilight and to the erotic fiction. It tells about many human characters. But Harry Potter is not for money, and they have loyal fans. And in the past 20 years, it keeps its strength and the power, and continues this legendary in the publishing history. I think my time is almost done. So this is very good. The publishing, as a book collector, I collected this version. I'm not as fan, but I also collect. There's two versions. In terms of the printing, it also showed this aesthetics. In terms of its printing and the publishing and sale, it creates a very unique style. And Harry Potter is about geography and the style and the feelings and the book. So it's have a very diversified presentation. At the starting point, it's only children's fiction, but nowadays adults and grown-ups have become their fans. And that's one of the reasons New York Times changed the bestseller list and create the bestseller list for children. And before, they don't have these children's bestsellers. So I think in this paper book, if you can find the uniqueness, it still have the value. So based on the uniqueness of the material, you need to select Harry Potter in terms of the creation and its content, its uniqueness creation. If we see the whole history of the novel, and this we will see the first one. The first one is Don Hogside, and then we will see the Harry Potter, and it's also magic. It's another Don Hogside exploration. It's also continue of this process. In reality, we also pursuing some magic, and this is also a very good, efficient skill for the boldness. And we will prepare for the reality after people reading so many visions. Thank you, Mr. Wang's sharing.
Before we start, I just wanted to get a quick show of hands from you. How many of you have traveled to another country in the last year? Yeah. Okay, so about half. And how many have used a physical guidebook for that? Okay, good. And how many have used a mobile phone when you were on your trip and looked things up? Okay, thank you. I want to, first of all, introduce myself. So, I'm German originally. I'm born in Eastern Germany, and I have spent the last 10 years in Australia. Especially at some of those moments like this, I've
you very much. I have to pinch myself, for those opportunities that you get in life. I spent the last 7 years at Lonely Planet. I just finished up. I was the production director, and I want to share with you today, some of the history of Lonely Planet and the journey. What I believe is a very, very interesting story on how things developed. Then a bit about travel content and travel in general, and then my views of publishing models of the future. I just come, from Vietnam, where I was on holiday. You need to get there fast. It's changing very, very quickly, and I think it will do in the next 2 or 3 years. Also, thank you for being here. Thank you very much to the Hong Kong Publishers Association and the Hong Kong Book Fair. So let's get into it. So 1973, Lonely Planet was born. The World Trade Center in New York was just opened. The Watergate scandal. This was before I was born. But Pink Floyd released Dark Side of the Moon, and the Paris Peace Accords were signed. So this was. If you think there was no internet, there was no personal computers, there was no mobile phones, and you can see here the car that Tony and Marine Wheeler set off to travel pretty much from London throughout the Middle East, throughout Asia, and ended up in Australia. I'm lucky because I worked very closely with the #1 employee of Tony and Marine. She took that photo, so she still works at Lonely Planet. She's in her 67 now. So we're good friends, and so I know many little quirky stories about how this company developed over the last more than 40 years. Tony and Marine started this company probably a bit more by accident. They ran out of money at the end, and so they needed to find something to do. So they wrote about it, and they printed a few thousand copies, and suddenly it sold, and then they printed another, and it sold again. And so they really actually started this company to finance their travels, and that's what it went into. Funnily enough, when you look at all the other brands that established around the same time, like Moon Guides was also founded in 1973. It's the same time. They all know each other. There's a big circle of travelers that know each other. The Loses, is a German couple that started a travel guidebook company. So everybody knew each other because they all met in some country. If you fast forward from 1973, 30 years later, pretty much Lonely Planet covered everywhere. The big breakthrough came in 1980 when the India guidebook came out, and it was a success. It won awards, and it pretty much doubled the size of the company. So you can see the first guidebook across Asia on the cheap to then probably 300 to 350 different guidebooks, and things were going great. The company grew every year, all the destinations were there. Then the business became mature, and suddenly, large global events happened. In 2001, the World Trade Center was attacked. A year later, terrorists bombed nightclubs in Bali. And even a year later, the SARS crisis broke out. So these were suddenly major events that impacted this company as a travel company. So what happened? It started to diversify, and because you can't make up new destinations and people travel, so we made up different versions of the same destinations. You branched out and you made a small pocketbook for this destination, or a compendium of it, to try to keep and escape this crisis. At the same time, a lot of things happened in the digital world, and actually go 5 years back to 1995, when Lonely Planet registered its website. have a think. When did you get your first email address? I got mine in 1996 when I was living in the US. So this was very, very early on. And in 1997, Lonely Planet started this thorn tree forum. You know, the thorn tree is a tree. It's in Nairobi in Kenya, and people posted messages there. You know, there's pen and paper, and they stuck it there. And Lonely Planet took that idea and said, "Oh, we can do an internet forum where travelers can share their ideas." So that was done in 1997. Why did they do that? I asked myself that question. Like, why was Lonely Planet so early in this technology advancement as a publisher? And I think it has something to do with the way the content is collected, because the content is collected on the road. So, you know, authors go out there and they needed to transmit, you know, their work back to Lonely Planet. So they wrote at the beginning pen and paper, and then, you know, maybe they carried a typewriter. But then very early on, you know, the company started to invest in kind of laptops, you know, what were big, clunky kind of things, but you could, you know, type on the road and you could correct and you could send your work over. So I think this is where it came that, you know, the whole publishing company was quite technology affinitive. A few things were tried and done. You know, you can see the Palm Pilot, you know, is, you know, predecessor of the smartphone, essentially, to have guides on there. Down to something that I, you know, find very, very interesting, that is this app called Wenzani, that, you know, kind of came out in 2010. This was a very innovative approach. We started another company called 440. We based it in the valley in California, in Silicon Valley, you know, so outside. And it was, you know, it was an app that could combine Lonely Planet and Frommer's and Time Out and BBC and Hearst Magazine and Inside Guides and DK, and also user comments in one. So it wasn't Lonely Planet, it was just completely opening up, you know, and providing a here and now app. It failed, and I'll come back to that later on why it did. You know, but we tried to put people there, you know, place them there so they can talk to the Apple people and the Google people and the emerging Facebook people every day and know and figure out what's happening. What you can also see here is BBC took, you know, Lonely Planet. Tony and Maureen Wheeler sold the company to the BBC in 2008. Another major disaster I actually want to tell you about actually happened in 2010. It was a natural disaster, but it wasn't a disaster for Lonely Planet. It was actually one of the best things that happened. In April 2010, the Icelandic volcano erupted, and, you know, it pretty much grounded all the aircrafts, and nobody could fly. You know, people were stuck in the UK and Europe, and they, you know, from America they couldn't get. And we had apps at the time, and we decided we're going to make those apps free. You know, those apps were with content, and, you know, we sold them usually between $10 and $15, and we made them free, and it went through the press, and you can imagine, you know, these exponential downloads you get. So that was a good disaster to help Lonely Planet spread its brand. So what happened under the BBC years? I tried to match these graphs to the mountain range in the background. I didn't quite succeed. But what you see is actually two graphs. The one is the exchange rate of the Australian dollar to the US dollar, and the other one is global consumer confidence. So the one is pretty much going up. What is another good sign, you know, because it, you know, made the revenues from the largest market that Lonely Planet has, the US, smaller to, you know, the Australian company, and the work was done in Australia in Australian dollars. The other one is consumer confidence that went down. So if that goes down, you know, travel is usually an additional spending, and people cut back on that. And that was all overlaid with, you know, big problems in the retail segment. So you can see the UK was the first. Borders announced the closure in the UK. Then the Borders US closure, and then very shortly after that, Red Group in Australia. So, you know, suddenly massive chunks of the retail market went bust, and nobody could buy these books anymore. The second, and I'm going to use actually the words of the founder from Lonely Planet, from Tony Wheeler, who made a decision to sell it to the BBC. But in a recent interview, he said it was actually a wasted opportunity during those times. When you think of why the BBC bought it and what they should have done with this brand, the BBC stands for TV. There is nothing TV. If I go back, we had more TV before BBC ownership than during BBC ownership. There was nothing really meaningful digital that was expanded. And the only thing that the BBC did was launch magazines that lose money. So it wasn't a great period, and I think it was a lost opportunity for those years. So going forward to 2013, NC2 buys Lonely Planet. So you can see here some American cowboys, and this is how the story unfolded. We were looking at the time, for video content to provide on our website and to engage more audience, and so we needed. And there was this company in the US, and they had just sent some cowboys that riding across the whole US and filming themselves, and so we were talking to them, can we get some video content from you? And at some point they realized that BBC actually wanted to sell the company, and the tables turned, and we were not buying content from them, but they were buying Lonely Planet. What brought a good emergence of opportunities, and I put 4 things in here on what happened with those pictures. The first is a publishing catalog. So we started to actually branch out into different types of books. So going away, or not going away, but in addition to the travel guides for every city and country, you started to make books that are related to travel in children's publishing, in cookbooks, in gift books, in stationery, all those things. So you can actually, widen your range, and you can see that on the cover is not a guidebook of the publishing catalog. It was also just down the track where another magazine was launched. This time for the biggest market, for the US, and that has outsold so far all the other editions of the magazines that were started before. In 2017, we relaunched the app. You can see there is a city app. It got well over 1 million downloads, and there's 100 cities and counting. And the other part is the website. So Lonely Planet has a big online presence, and it has probably 10 million social media users combined. So if you count all the Facebooks, the Vines, the Instagram users, all together, it's probably 10 million people we can interact with. And it's good because you can commercialize it. There is some advertisements on the website, but it's not a lot. The biggest part is an online shop that we have, so people can actually buy, our books and our products there. The mix is probably 50-50, 50% e-books and 50% physical books. And it presents also a very good commercial model because there's no margins that somebody has to give away to anybody because we can do it ourselves. So that is quite valuable and is actually a very, very good business model. The attitude in the new owner is also changed because Lonely Planet has been in the past very much focused on the backpacker market. This is how it grew, and then it only considered certain people worthy of being considered a traveler. So the new owner says like, I actually want to broaden this sense, and it's like Lonely Planet means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and it's actually a lot of people have had maybe interactions with different kinds of what we publish. Some may not even have bought a book. You know, they just saw a YouTube video from Lonely Planet, or saw the TV series, or they just had the magazine, or they just downloaded the app. So the key is to strengthen that ecosystem, to bring it all together, and you know, with the core, to publish good content. Because in the end, the consumer doesn't care in what medium he uses. You know, he wants and is hungry for good quality travel content. So this is where we are now, and you know, hopefully riding ahead into a good future with Lonely Planet. I want to talk about the travel content and travel in general. When you talk about travel content, travel is about trust, and your most trusted travel resource is your friends and family. Whenever you get a recommendation from them on where to stay or where to go or what to eat, this is the one you follow. This is the closest source of trust that you get. And you usually use and need more trust the further away you go. So if you travel in a very, very far country or into a culture that is very different from yours, then you need more information, and that's usually when you go and purchase travel content information. The second one is, what I want to talk on this is global travel guide sales. You know, the US and the UK, just those two markets. And you see, it's not a very pretty picture. You know, since 2006, you know, it's probably down to half the size. This is a picture of two sides, I would say, because I know the numbers, you know, from the big players like MODERATOR and Lonely Planet, and certainly these sales didn't decrease as much. They decreased a little, and especially in the last years, it actually grew. You know, I can tell you that this growth is entirely due to Lonely Planet. What is important in this whole travel content, that you keep it up to date. If you start investing to update it, you drop the ball, you're out of the game. That's it. There's a few other funny things that happened in there. From Us, for example, is a company, and they, you know, Google bought them in 2013 to get the content, and 9 months later, Arthur Frommer, with 83 years or so, bought the company back, you know, to start it again. So I think for the whole industry, it has been a tough game for selected players. It's still a very, very good business. So I put here, you know, what I see is the traditional travel content publishing houses, and they're roughly in the order of the size. So, you know, MODERATOR is probably the biggest globally, and you know, they actually have a collection of brands. So they own brands like Baedeker and Marco Polo and Demon itself, and then they license brands like a Lonely Planet or a Lowe's, and you know, publish them in German. You know, Avalon is Rick Steves and Moon, and DK and Rough Guide belong to Penguin Random House. So you can see there's a whole collection that represent the majority of the market, at least the Western market. Then I put also internet content providers, and I think this is also the reason on why there is so much decrease, or it's at least one of the reasons. So a lot of the information is actually found on the internet. It's free, and people use that. That's one of the reasons. So it's available on Google and on TripAdvisor. The other reason is that I think we have become a more global society. So people are just more experienced in travel, and therefore there's no need to buy, again, a trusted resource. You know, that's why, you know, looked at the show of hands, you know, and probably half of the people that have traveled overseas have only bought a guidebook, and this is because you are seasoned or already experienced traveler. Okay, some good news. You can see that people continue to travel. So this is big. There's solid growth rates there, and especially in China. You can see here the largest traveling nations in the world. You know, China is on top, Germany, United States, United Kingdom, and then pretty much all the other countries are down here. This is global outbound travelers every year, from the World Bank. The China number, I would say you have to discount by probably 40 million people, because this is the travel in and out of Hong Kong. So if you take it from 120 million down to 80, it's roughly here. So it's up there on top. So this is a very, very good story of, and a big opportunity. People still travel and people still need professional content. Before I go on, I actually wanted to talk about a little bit about MODERATOR and how they pursue their digital journey, because this is also another one of the big players. Since they don't have a brand like Lonely Planet, they have to do it in a different way. And so they actually give seed money to different adjacent providers. So, so they invest like in companies like Travel Circus, booking site, they in Beach Inspector, it's a website where you can find the best beach to go to. In Findway, what is a smart travel concierge? In Zizou, what is a boat or a yacht rental platform? Escapio is again a booking platform for luxury discount prices. And they also play in the app space. There's an app called TripWolf where they were an early investor in, and they grow that. They now have their own branded apps as well, like with for the brands they have, like a Marco Polo, and they also started a magazine. So they all kind of follow the same or similar patterns. So publishing models of the future. I don't have a crystal ball. I have only opinions and views, but I can base those views on something that I've observed, and I want to share it with you by kind of posing those two questions. The first one is, what do you think is the difference between those two things, between a bookstore and the app store? For me, the difference is something psychological, like something mentally, and it comes by walking into this store. If you walk into this bookstore, you know that there's nothing for free in there, other than the conversation that you might have with the clerk. But all the products in there cost money. So you're actually going in there with the preparation that you're going to pull out your wallet and you're going to buy something. You go there with a purpose. You go with a purpose in both stores to get content. Yeah, you need to have travel content to go to the Alpine region in Europe. So then you go to the Google Play Store, the App Store, and you search for something. But psychologically, 90% of the stuff in there is free, and the other 10% costs 99 cents US. So what is your propensity to pay? There's not a lot. I believe the business model of apps for paid content is not there. Even the scale on a global scale doesn't work. Probably travel content and good travel content is too expensive to make, even with the scales of millions and millions of downloads in apps, and nobody actually has done that. And the third thing I want to say, unfortunately, there is less and less bookstores around. What is probably driven by the property booms in the world, and the rents are too high. So unfortunately, there's also very much pressure on this commercial models of these bookstores, and you saw before, why some of those large chains actually faltered. So the second question I wanted to pose: what do you think is the challenge here? And there's a scary picture on here, and it's not the one with the ghost. It's this first one. So you see, this is a picture of the Gutenberg Bible. This is the first commercially mass-produced book in the world. It was printed in 1850. There's still 42 copies around in the world. That's a picture of one of them, and below that is a Lonely Planet guidebook. So you can see, in 567 years, there's not a lot of change. So for me, it illustrates two things on how much publishers innovate. So it's not a lot. But also you could also argue, well, it's a proven concept, you know. As you saw before, there's a lots of Bibles sold. There's a lots of Lonely Planet guides sold. It has served a good purpose. On the other hand, you know, there's something that is 575 years old is a Snapchat. You know, is a 5-year-old company, $35 billion valuation. You know, something, you know, is sent around, it lasts 10 seconds, then it destroys itself. You know, and even if it isn't viewed, then it also destroys itself. And it's crazy, you know. At the moment, actually, Instagram is growing much faster than Snapchat. So this is a very, very, very different race of something. I want to tell you very quickly the story of our au pair. So me and my wife work full time, and we have children, and so we are having au pairs. You know, these are young women, pretty much, that want to become a childcare teacher, and we take them from Germany. So they can speak German to the kids, and they live with us for half a year. So their goal is they want to travel to Australia and experience the country, and they can live with us for 6 months. And they, you know, I always ask them, so where's your travel guide? And they don't have one. They come with a mobile phone. And our most recent au pair, I was like, how many travel guides do you have with you? And she's like, no, I don't know, but I have three. It was like, so why? So, you know, one was given to her by her mother, the other one by her auntie, the other one by a friend, and she didn't bring any. She lives on Snapchat. You know, this is what the young generation is about. You know, this is what they use as travel tools. So, what is my take on travel models of the future? And I brought a few things that I wanted to really quickly share with you. But coming back to Wenzani, I think, you know, the app that ultimately failed, it was a brilliant idea. You know, it was combining professional content, combining user content, being local, you know, being in this app market, you know, appealing to the young generation. But it failed. It was too crowded. You know, it was just one of many. You know, there's a lot of competition. This is what I want to express with the Snapchat. You know, it's there now. Instagram is going faster. It might be something different. It's all very, very, very short-lived. And in the end, unfortunately, the commercials also didn't stack up. So, how do you get good content and you know, get paid for it? I think one of the opportunities is with bookings. You know, you can provide this content, and then you make the things that you recommend as bookable opportunities. People spend money when they go on travel, and you can see if it's very easy and convenient. You know, somebody like Uber can go in and do that and disruptive, because they have a very easy booking engine with it. Advertising and media is always used. I don't believe that this is a viable model in a sense, because you can only do it really in a subtle way if you publish professional content, and it can very quickly, you know, become, you know, look unprofessional or actually quite biased. So the challenge is how, you know, so people use more electronic mediums on how to do that, but they're not prepared to pay for it. So you know, how, you know, why isn't there a way how you can give it to them in a different way? You know, I picked up this guide. This is a Dutch travel guide publishing company, and what they do, they actually sell you the app with the book. You know, like why don't we sell the app in the bookstore? Because people know they're going to pay in the bookstore and not in the app store. So they do that. I think it's a brilliant example of how they do that. You know, the people that get a book and they get the app all at the same time, one price, and it's paid for. And there's a registration code, and they just figured out the system. I think this is a very good example of what could actually be done. Lonely Planet, we experimented with that as well, and we tried to probably disrupt ourselves, and you know, how can we not look like a Bible? And so we made this book that looks very different. And then we also, we need to do an app. I said, hey, we need to bring it with an app because I saw that. And then, we say, okay, let's do the app and let's advertise. But then we advertise the app like here. It comes with an app. It's here. Yeah. So that didn't work. Of course, it didn't work. So good example, bad execution. Some more positive things that we did, and I brought this. We started to do maps, and you think, well, how old-fashioned are maps? Like, who needs maps? So we did little prototypes of it, and thought, like, well, actually, we can make these maps as little tiny travel guides. So this is experiments like printed on waste paper of offcuts of paper in the bookmaking process. And then we also brought out these larger maps. I fold them up. And they serve a purpose because there is no phone with a big enough screen or no computer with a big enough screen to actually have that overview. The electronic media cannot compete with this. There's a valid business model for this, and then you don't make it very boring. You make it out of, this is out of waterproof paper and made a little bit more fancy, and actually it comes in a sleeve. Yeah, that's the very important part, and the sleeve is the same size as the book. So this doesn't sit in the dusty old corner of the map section in the bookstore where nobody can find it and read it. And it has a little spine, so people can find it and it's accessible. So there's opportunities for this. The second last example I have is a book that was published in Australia last year. And this is a disruptive book. This book sold 100,000 copies. What is amongst the bestsellers. So Australia is still a small market. So the best-selling book in 2016, I think, sold about 130,000 copies. This book sold 100,000 copies. It's by a guy, he's a completely unknown author, and it's also not printed in the usual way. It's like this. The key thing was they didn't set any retail price for this. They said you can pay whatever you want for this book. Yeah, so it was a challenge to the book. So they're like, we can't have that. We need to have a barcode. It needs to show something on till, but it is. You can pay a cent for it. You can pay $1 million for it. The message I want to get across is people are prepared to buy this book. They are prepared to spend money on it. On average, they spend 22 Australian dollars on it. What is a good price? So there is something in there if you're able to disruptive, if you're not following the normal patterns. So, bestseller, no price. And the last example, going back is something that you touched on in your speak, with the fashion industry. Like, why, is it always something new, or is it just waiting a little bit and then looking back and making something come? This is a Lonely Planet travel guide from 1989. Yeah, so something close to my heart is the year when the Berlin Wall came down, and it's an update. So it's actually just the update number 30 to a book you probably already own. And there's a little, like 2 paragraphs about some town in Vietnam or something. It's it's just an addition. On the back of it, on the last page, there's a mail order form. It's a subscription form, and it says in there, subscribe to Lonely Planet Update. You will save nearly 25%. And our updates are published in February, May, August, and November. So people sign up for this, and they pay, and they just get this. So it's a regular something, Travel content is not going away. People are traveling all the time. But they can't access it because there's less bookstores, and they're tempted to go to the app store where they're not going to pay. So why don't we give them a subscription to something? A lot of, new age business models do this. You know, people are still listening to music. You know, Apple Music, Spotify, subscription model. You know, people still want entertainment. You know, but they don't want to watch TV. But you know, Amazon Prime and Netflix, they completely run a subscription model, and it's, you know, it works out for them. You know, they are able to produce quality content and give quality content to people for little amounts of subscription. So these are just my thoughts on what is possible in the industry. And I hope, you know, I got your head a bit spinning. I hope you can connect the dots, you know, and take the opportunity, because travel is growing, travel in China is growing. And, you know, travel is a way to get, you know, as humans better, you know. A few months ago, President Obama, or back then President Obama, published an article for Lonely Planet. And, you know, please go and go Google it and find it. You know, he shared his beliefs, you know, and Lonely Planet shares his beliefs, and I share his beliefs, that travel is this force for good in our society. You know, because we get the young people to learn, experience the other cultures, and truly immerse themselves in there, and then they become more tolerant, more compassionate, and they really will understand, you know, change that is going to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for Mr. Poppe's insight, for sharing.
Good afternoon. It's a great opportunity for me to share with you. And this topic, I only know this afternoon. And the topic is to judge the timing and the size of the situation, the operating consideration of establishing Chinese language and literature platform. I feel stressful about the topic. Why? My company is China Times Publishing Company, and the topic contains the word time. So I think time is also critical for us. I think nowadays it's the ice age for the publishing industry. And for the operation, operating is also very critical keywords in the topic. I spent many years in China Times. And my company is called China Times Publishing Company. So I think the topic is customized for me. I have to face the topic and to think how to speak. And China Times was established in 1975. It is one of the media organization of China Times Publishing Group. And we are in, the company was officially established in 1985. In 1999, we are a listed company. So we are still the listed company in Taiwan. And afterwards, we face this financial crisis. And then the company was sold. The group was sold to Wang Group, and the only our company, the China Times Publishing Company, is separated. So it's separate from its mother company, the publishing group. And those people are China Times people. Are some experts. One is Zhang Hongzhi, is chief editor, and Su Shiping is also the co-founder of the Morning Times. And Mr. He was my boss for half a year. It's also Cheng-ming Company's executive CEO. And Hao Mingyi is also the general manager in my company, and now become the distributor. So they start from the China Times Publishing Company. And when we talk about this Chinese language, and the literature platform. We have to release the financial report, and the last sentence in the financial report is we want to become the Chinese language and the literature platform. And every year we say this sentence. First of all, I'd like to talk about the publishing industry in Taiwan. What kind of efforts we made. And the book fair is closely related to industry. And then I want to talk about how to create and manage this Chinese language platform. And we have finished this limitation and also embrace this freedom of speech in Taiwan 30 years ago. And we have many bookshops, bookstores like the Elite and many other bookshops. And in Taiwan, we have about 5,000 publishers. And we don't have the strict regulations on those publishers. Even some private and small publisher organizations, you can publish books. We have published 38,000. So every day it's about 1.6. And nowadays there are 50 declined. And last year there are 910 books reduced. And about 30% Taiwan people in Taiwan, they don't like reading books. And every year we bought about 4 books, and this is 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the online hours is 1.44, and nowadays people in Taiwan will spend average 6 hours online. Maybe they will read on their smartphone. They don't read any paper books. And the survey showed how many books for Taiwan people to read every year. Many people say two books, and one is a notebook, another one is a Facebook. They're not paper books. And we treat this expression as a joke. We don't think it happened. But nowadays it happened. And the people in Taiwan, they spend too much time online, on the Facebook and the internet. So for the past 4 to 5 years, and I saw in Hong Kong there's a 5% decline, and in Taiwan we have 20% decline. And last year, this year, we are still facing critical declining. And the professional publishers is 13,000, and there are only 900 publishers who have over 9 people. So we are the number 1 in the Taiwan publishers. And the ministry department encourage some independent publishers. The independent publishers are popular, but I think the ecosystem is not healthy. The publishing is very limited. We have a very blossom area, and nowadays we spend too many time on those digital gadgets. And before we have famous writer Dai Chengzhi, and he said, Mr. Zhao, I have many houses in Taipei, and all the money are from your publishing fee. But nowadays you cannot imagine. And the local writers, the publishing tax is about 40 to 40,000 to 60,000 new Taiwan dollars. So it's not the investment is not worth. And for a foreign language, we have to pay the pre-publishing tax. And this pre-publishing fee is even higher. The translation fee is also very high. And this will become the pressure for the publishers. We search some blogs online and some celebrities online. They have their own fans. Maybe we can create a bestseller. Like last year, we have this book. So this is we have different business model. And we have a writer book from the Haruki Murakami, and also have another book for the local celebrity. So they have the similar sales. And it's very hard for those local bookstore to survive. And yesterday, we said the Mr. Wu Qingyou, the founder of Elite, passed away, and he's a great contributor in Taiwan publishing industry. In the future, we think we will continue make contributions. But the sales in bookstore is really bad. There are two small bookstores, and one is in Danshui, another one is on the first floor of our building. And the book sale is only accounting for 80%, and they can only be survived by selling coffees. And the digital and the online publishers will influence our traditional publishers. And if we cannot guarantee the writers and the distribution channels, we cannot make a healthy traditional publishing industry. So what's the outlet? What's the future development? I think we need to redefine book fair, redefine the readers and book. And the e-book in Taiwan accounts 2 to 4%, the growth. And the paper book is declined to 20%, but it still accounts for 40%. So even it grows double, the e-books grow double, it cannot combat the traditional paper books. So it's hard to replace the paper books. What's the future development? First, we need to reduce the cost. We need to reduce whether we can increase the unit price. If readers they don't buy, it's meaningless to increase the unit price. Or whether we can have these bestsellers, for example, Harry Potter. And this is very magic. Our chief editor thinks it's too magic. It's like the virtual story. And J.K. Rowling, when she wanted to publish this book, she was rejected by 4 or 5 publishers. So whether we can cultivate these readers or rely on some associations. And we combined 4 or 5 organizers to create one organization. If we just cluster together and didn't make any energy, it's meaningless. We are still thinking the cross-boundary methods. What is whether we can create the platform, and we will have this very comprehensive platform, but also remain the uniqueness of different companies. And in the paper book, we still have the potential. And another thing is to consider customize for this publisher. For example, we can receive order first, and then to cross border, and we can go to other industries like education and culture. And we will see this textbook-related materials or the stationaries have a very good sale, or whether we can have a B2C interactive platform. For example, we will use the learning plan. We can have a learning planets platform to have a very big fans community. We can also still imagine we can operate the community instead of selling books to bookstores. In 2013, we invite Wang to Taiwan. The book is very popular, and we also have other events by Yeung, and have this photography exhibition, and also Dan Brown and Hale, the premiere, the publishing event. They have this virtual book platform and also the physical books. So we have a very good sale. And this is also for this another event in Taipei. We have a very big banner on Taipei transport hub, and this is the first time, and I think also last time, because we don't have enough money for the second marketing event. And at that time, many people in the industry were crying. They think we really tried very hard to promote. And for the elite bookstore opening event, we also have the event of Haruki Murakami's book. And we invite many Taiwan celebrities, the young celebrities, in the event to attract the young readers. And at that time, we worried the young celebrity Chen Bolin. He didn't have much reading experience, it seemed, but he had a good performance. And also another one for the Haruki Murakami's for the music event. And there's an event for us together with 69 organizers to promote our books. And nowadays, people don't read novels, and even especially for the long novels. And we created banners and put it everywhere. And last year we did the event of Mr. Yeung. It's about the rain chamber, the detail of the rain chamber. Mr. Yeung is very old, is 18 years old, but he still wants to promote this traditional novel. So I think we still have the future development. For example, we can promote reading is part of life. If we have this reader agents and to give a name, the knowledge producer, and what we do is to produce knowledge, and whether we can do some product marketing, and apart from the paper books, and to do some product marketing, or the retail network blog can promote, can sell the books, and even can get part of the book fee. And we will promote the curator, the exhibition, and promote the book into people's life. So I think we have to adjust the value of publishers. Before, we focus on content. Content is king. So nowadays, the content is still king. Maybe someday, writer is the king. Writer is not about the content. It's not only having the content. It's about other relevant product. Or maybe someday, reader is the king. Or customer is king. The customer can be a reader or he's not a reader. So if we change our concept, the marketing event, the promotion event will have a change. In the book fair in Taipei, we make some event, an experiment. In the past, the Taipei book fair is only for book selling. It's for copyright exchanging. It's only focusing on the book industry. But this year, we made a lot of events. I propose a target to make our readers come to the book fair first and have a happy experience looking around first. And we get support from our culture department. We reduce the cost of the book booths and extend the open hours, and also improve the space, and even extend the space to the outside places. I heard that in Hong Kong it's also very excellent. Many people in McDonald's they still read. They're still reading. And we also have some events, for example, in the box. It's a very small box, and people can enter the box to read books there. And another one is it's a public space, so we activate the space. So we only did one thing. We extend the space and integrate the space into other spaces. So when you walk to different exhibition hall, you have a different experience. And then we have this exhibition reward, decoration reward for those exhibitors. And many exhibitors find the interior designer for their book booths. In addition, we invited some young people, some young creative publishing area. Another one is to cultivate children's reading and also encourage the small-sized professional publishing. And we create a lot of events and some musical events and dance events are even involved in this book fair. And for the curation, the first photos on the right is reader in the beach, and then we will have different space for reading, and the people read in the and on the left there's also some historical items exhibition. And there's a live video. So many people think, do you still have some live video in the book fair? Because it can create a clustering of customers. And we invited some experts from Frankfurt and to the book fair to share some experience. And we created over 1,500 events in the whole book fair. We also invite Liang Wendao, Bifeiyu to meet up in Taipei. Hong Kong is important supporter for Taiwan Book Fair. It's a very strong supporter. So, if we just return to reading, it's not about selling books, and then we create 20% growth in this year's book fair in Taiwan. So we changed our logic. We go to the bookstore, and many environment and the ecosystem are changed. And last but not least, how to redefine reading and the books, and what is book and what is reading. What is reading behavior, in which ambience and environment to read. Many parents in Taiwan don't think the comics are books, and whether they can play some games on the pad, and whether some animations, reading animations is reading books. So it's not defined and by our parents. Readers can define it. So how to promote? In Taiwan, we have travel and reading, and in the public transport, we have this tickets providing this scheme. And in Hong Kong, we can also promote this reading. The future of reading, so it may be the content or this culture, or it's about the other things. So it's about the old things and the new things. Because my time is constrained, so I will skip some pages. So how to redefine the market, I think in China language, we still have potential. In China language market, it's about 1.5 billion. It's account for one quarter. It's kind of a quarter of the total population, the global population. If we treat it as the English or French language marketing, it's still a very big marketing. So, how to operate? I think China is emerging. The market is huge. And in Taiwan, we have creativity and some design potential, and this is our edge. And in Hong Kong, can have the potential of coordination in terms of investment and the commercialization, etc. And for the Singapore and the Malaysia, they are also the Chinese language are still their major market. First, I think we have to respect the local game rules. In the past, the music industry followed this way. If we see the whole China language market in the global perspective, it's different. If we see it in the separate regional distribution, we can respect the local game rule. For example, in China, we have regulations and limitations, and we follow their limitations and to publish those books. And how to define this publishing industry. I think we must be reader-oriented and the life-oriented, so this will become a culture, a renaissance again. So books will exist. 30 years ago, many people said after 2000, papers will be distinguished. Now, but 30 years ago, papers still exist. We need to maintain this characters and the content, but not to keep the typing writers. So, in the publishing commercialization and also the publishing operation, I still think we have the potential in China language publishing market. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yeung, admin. We plan to have 10 minutes for the Q&A session, but we are a bit overrun today. But we still want to keep the Q&A session because it has been planned and has been told to do so. But I am sure that our speakers will be very willing and pleased to answer your questions even after the program. I understand that if you have any questions, you can either put them on the question paper and pass to the staff on site to us.
Like give 5 to 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes then, for this Q&A session, and welcome all questions. The very first one is for Mr. Poppe, is that what is the top 5 most endangered animals on Earth?
I guess How am I supposed to answer that?
Is it? I don't know. It's human being, I guess. Yes. Anyway, it's a funny question, so yeah, feel free. Most endangered animals on Earth. Top 5, is it? It's a challenge, I guess.
I have to Google that question, so I don't know.
But well, I guess for us, you know, the top 5 most endangered species for the publishing industry is the publisher and the boss itself. Okay, so in your opinion, after so many years with Lonely Planet, in your opinion, how can you, sharing with us that, how can you expand a bit? Especially, I read your PowerPoint that there's an upsurge of people, the business of the Lonely Planet starting 2015. And can you elaborate a bit on that? Because I want to know why the Lonely Planet travel guide is going down for so many years and then suddenly it goes up a bit in starting 2015. Mm-hmm. Is it because of the app business?
No, I mean our business is influenced by a lot of global events, as you saw. So you know, if the consumer confidence is down, if there's terrorist attacks, you know, then people suddenly stop to travel. I think what people saw and the statistics that showed, you know, why travel guides went down so much is because a lot of the other players, they stopped investing into content, and so the content is not up to date, and so people stopped buying them. The decline wasn't as big as I showed for Lonely Planet itself, and so we have built a very strong brand around it, and we still dominate. To dominate in the bookstores. We start to dominate so much in the bookstores that, you know, there's a section where you find travel books, but for example in Australia and in some other parts of the world, this section is not called travel section, it's called Lonely Planet section. So, you know, once you have this big shelf presence, people know, and it becomes a destination where they go to get inspired. People love to talk about travel. Travel is the #1 talked about thing on Facebook. Yeah. You know, people like to talk before they go about where they go. Then they talk when they're on the road, and they talk after. I dream I was still there. Yeah. So the subject matter of travel itself is something that people like to think about and like to spend their time on. And if you have enough shelf presence, or if you have a big brand, that will help you boost that and you win against the competition.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Any more question? And you know what? I enjoy very much being a moderator here because usually I can ask the very first question ahead of participants. So before I take this question, I have one question for Mr. Wang. Wang 老师，因为我说我是最
When I heard that you talk about Harry Potter, and you have a point of view. In Harry Potter, they make a breakthrough behind the marketing, and they protect the mystery and magic, and explore the magic. So if they have this kind of method, like an army, to protect the confidentiality, to protect the secrets and the mystery. So you think this will be a common attitude in the whole publishing industry? I think the case is not separate. It's will not become the only case. I think they have some similarities in business. If they want to stand out, any company wants to stand out, they must show uniqueness. The meaning of uniqueness is unique is their value. It's not only physically there by yourself and with yourself. It's not what I mean by independent. Being independent means being unique. You must be different from others. For example, in publishing, publisher is God. Publisher only considers their own things. They follow their own logic, but we have to reverse the concept. Maybe we need to turn the concept. It's not a content consumer. The reader is not a content consumer. They are only content. They are also content promoter. I'm an outsider of the publishing industry. I'm an investor, but I think they have some similarities in the investment and the publishing. Many people ask me in the apps age, and what's the difference between the past and before is you create a product, you produce a product, and think how to sell it. But nowadays, you need to cater people's need first and create the product. If the book can stand out, you can have the very good advantage in the niche market. If you occupy 80% of the niche market, it will be great success. If only occupy 1% of the general market, it's not success. So the case of Harry Potter will bring some inspiration in the publishing. Miss Rowling only completes her writing in half a year, but the marketing process is very long. It's from the first word, finger typed, the moment. And the value is labor you input. So that is also can explain why Louis Vuitton is very valuable and other kind of leather goods are not as valuable as them, because it contains effort and labor works. I also have some questions for Mr. Zhao. In the digital world, publishers change from this major role to these minor roles. Do you think so? And many people think when the book is becoming a bestseller, the writer will become famous, and nobody knows publisher. I think publisher is like the power generator in the car. It's like an engine. If you don't have the value of an engine, sorry, you cannot see car running. In digital world, it seems the function is changed. Maybe it's not car, it becomes a flight or rocket. But the value of change is still existed. You need to know the change of a reader and the value of reader. The core value is not changed. It's about arts. It's about respect of the publishing process. I don't think it will change. And we have a very constrained time. So I would like to invite every guest speaker to say a point about our opportunities and the crisis in publishing. So in the last minute, in 2017, what opportunities and the crisis you think in publishing? And we can start from Mr. Wang. So I think the position is very important. I will always be the first people. I think we are entered into the very personalized age. If you only have the price competition, you can compare with those digital, the e-books. You have to create uniqueness. The paper book must have its own value. For example, the customer experience, the layout, or this image, or the package, or the printing, and to pursue the unit price, not the wholesale price. To turn the unfamiliar to be familiar is better than the cold screen. When people find out this its advantage, it will return to the traditional paper publishing. It's customized. They will feel it's customized and feel more comfortable. So you must create this uniqueness to make this paper advantage stand out. Readers may decrease, but the unit price can increase a lot. Just like Harry Potter, like those volume 7 volumes, if the price can 3,000, and it can be a very great success. And for the digital version, even over 10 million, the price is still very low. So it's better to think the uniqueness. Thank you.
Publishing model, as I spoke in my thoughts in the end. So for I think the opportunity is especially there for smaller players. The big publishing houses, unfortunately, they're too big, they're too slow to make that happen. So there's much more opportunity there, and I think there is also significant opportunity for a physical printed book that will still exist. There's a need for that, but you need to be very innovative in how you can make that and make a commercial model and sell it and generate revenue and profit from that.
Yeah, always stay being innovative, right?
Yes.
Okay. 赵总一点可以。
好，我想第一个是。
First, I think the paper book will not be extinct because it is irreplaceable. The value is irreplaceable. And the second point, sorry, I have 4 points, not only one. The paper books cannot return to this to its honor time. And if you spend even double cost for the publishing of Harry Potter, the sales can only reach half of its past target. And then the speed will become faster. Harry Potter realize this big sale can compare with Bible and the Mao's quotation, Cheng-ming Mao's quotation, and it can realize in half a year. It also relied on the modern tools. And another point is we have to explore B2C. We have to be reader-oriented. We have to explore the book value and the non-book value. Don't give up those physical books and traditional paper books. And it's better for us to promote some books. So don't blame readers because you didn't create the suitable books for those readers, and that's our mistake. It's not readers' mistakes. So don't give up books. Don't give up looking around in the book fair. This is the end of International Publishing Forum. See you tomorrow.